In medical science and great and path-breaking strides in digital data, artificial intelligence, and surveillance technologies are proving to be a lifeline while we embark to navigate our daily lives and business work amid the COVID-19 crisis. The knowledge-based approaches will not only bolster our fight against COVID-19, they play an important role in the face of recovery of lives and livelihood from the pandemic. CI has been working round the clock to ensure that the wheels of industry keep moving and that there are no bottlenecks anywhere. CI's extensive engagement policy to combat the impact of COVID-19 on the economy includes policy advocacy, relief and rehabilitation work, augmenting the inventory of healthcare equipment, support services for businesses, and information services. Its sectoral verticals are providing real-time updates on policy announcements and working with the central government to provide inputs on the next steps to tide over current emergency. In consultation with its industry members, CI has been continuously compiling immediate business challenges across multiple sectors for minimizing the fallout of COVID-19 on the economy. It is providing policy suggestions for macroeconomic management, monetary measures, fiscal incentives, and ease of doing business. For the most adversely impacted sectors, CI has brought out recommendations to assuage the unprecedented crisis, including right steps for MSMEs, tourism, aviation, exports, manufacturing, and service sectors. Global challenges call for global collaborations and partnerships, bringing together the best and brightest scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs who work together to find solutions not only to address the current pandemic, but also for the challenges that lie ahead. Effective collaborations and networks not only help leverage share expertise across SMT communities, thereby creating synergy, but often lead to government to the generation of innovative and transformative solutions. National Technology Day is more than the anniversary of its historical event. It is interesting to note that on this date in 2012, I had witnessed the formal launch of Global Innovation and Technology Alliance, or GITA, by Dr. A.P. Abdul Kalam, former President of India. GITA has come a long way since its inception in 2012 and has created a niche for itself by contributing to the implementation and development of the innovation dimension in science, technology, and innovation cooperation strategy with global partners. GITA is now an anchor organization in India and a leading force for bilateral industrial R&D collaboration. Today, as we celebrate various facets of technology, let us recognize the efforts GITA has been directing for India and position India as much sought after partner in innovative technologies at the international level. GITA has been promoting international cooperation and channeling public funding to innovation-driven R&D projects. GITA recently, in collaboration with its Israeli counterpart, Israel Innovation Authority, through the India-Israel Industrial R&D and Technological Innovation Fund, which was jointly launched by Honorable Prime Minister and Israeli Prime Minister, is working with a focus on supporting innovative products or technological solutions, addressing the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic on a fast track. It has been decided to prioritize innovative technologies at the piloting or adaptation stage that can be deployed to collaboration for manufacturing in India or Israel for the global market with solutions in the field of ventilation, diagnostic, and protection. I would also like to announce that the India-Israel R&D Technological Innovation Fund, I4F, is looking for fresh proposals. In addition, the request for proposals under the India-Canada Collaborative Industrial Research and Development Program 2020 has been extended from 15 July 2020 to 16 September 2020, while the request for proposals under the India-Spain program closes on 29th May now. Honorable Minister, sir, it has been an honor for CI to hear you speaking in many public forums. The CI has been omnipresent wherever you have gone the last 25 years. This recognition has two dimensions. One, the breadth of CI's subjects and sectors participation of a wide spectrum of stakeholders like industry, academia, and government. I want to add another dimension to it, and that is intensity and depth. Gita is one of such examples where CII has come forward to implement on the ground initiatives to increase private sector investment in R&D. In a world that could be known as after COVID-19, we will see technology playing an enhanced role that will reshape business conduct and consumer behavior. The implications, approaches, and the ensuing scenarios will be the prime focus for today's conference. Restart, reboot the economy to science, technology, and research translation. Today's conference is a timely effort for the future where the technological transformation will revolve around creating business models that will survive and thrive in this new society. Futuristic technologies that are also subject of today's conference session will drive business around near autonomous warehouses, robotics, drone deliveries, and additive manufacturing and are going to be in the fast lane to adoption. Finally, we in our country must rapidly adopt the development of scientific and technological knowledge, not only to successfully combat COVID-19 emergency, but also contribute to the future societies that exist in harmony and lead prosperous and fulfilling lives. One last point I'd like to make, and this we have started repeating now at every public interaction we can get to, is that there are three very simple items to help us control the pandemic. One is wearing a mask, second is washing your hands, and keeping a social distance. This basically is an issue of habit, and I would sincerely request everyone in the audience, please keep following it and please encourage everyone around to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kirloskar. We now have Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Deputy Director General, World Health Organization, as our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Renuka ji, and I hope I am audible. First of all, namaskar.
It is very audible.
Thank you. Vardhan ji and all the other dignitaries who are on this panel. Greetings and namaskar. It's an honor to be able to say a few words to you this morning, and I will keep my intervention very brief. First of all, I would like to commend and congratulate Honorable Minister and colleagues for having contained so far the COVID pandemic in India and having kept both the number of cases and the number of deaths very low compared to other countries. However, we know that this is a marathon that we are running, it's not a sprint, and India and in fact the whole world has to be prepared for ongoing transmission of infection for many, many months and perhaps years to come. So the measures that the previous speaker was just mentioning would really have to be followed for a long time, and of course we know there are many challenges in India in terms of overpopulation, overcrowding in many of the urban areas, and poor access to healthcare facilities in some of the rural areas. And this is a time actually for us to really strengthen public health surveillance, primary healthcare delivery, and strengthening of the health workforce. And I think science and technology would play a very important role in all of these, in surveillance, in delivery of primary health care, as well as in helping the health workforce to do their job better. One example is the different sources of data that we have on health, which are very fragmented. I know that there are efforts being made to bring them together, but it will be a huge help if the data from the laboratories that do the surveillance, the data from the electronic health records, as well as the data from the research labs like ICMR labs, would all feed into one data platform, so that applications like artificial intelligence could then be used on this big data to make meaningful conclusions as well as predictions. This is particularly true now when one wants to know where the epidemic is moving, who are the people at most risk, where is transmission most likely to happen, and which interventions are most effective. So that is about data and IT, and I think that there is no reason why this kind of integrated data platform cannot be created. So I think COVID-19 gives countries opportunities to look at areas of weaknesses in their own health system and try to fix them or improve them. As has been said many times, I think the way out of this pandemic is science. Because it's a new virus and we're learning something new about it every day, it is scientists who should be leading this fight, and in fact who are leading this fight. Not just in terms of the development of diagnostics, vaccines and drugs, but also in terms of understanding and communicating about this disease. Early on, we coined the word infodemic. There was a pandemic due to the virus, but also an infodemic, an information epidemic. A lot of it is false and misinformation, misleading information, myths and beliefs. And that's why it's so important for science communication to be done in a way that reaches the public and where they can understand and act appropriately. A few words I would like to mention on what WHO is doing on the development of these new tools, particularly vaccines, because I believe that India will play an important role in this. In fact, the world cannot, I think, have enough vaccines for everyone if India is not part of the process. About 2 weeks ago, the WHO launched something called ACT Accelerator, which is Access to COVID Tools, accelerating the development and making sure that there is access of these new tools to everyone, everywhere, regardless of their capacity to pay. Since then, there has been an online pledging event on May 4th, which was led by the President of the EU. And this pledging is open now for the next couple of weeks for countries to join. About 40 heads of state so far have pledged their involvement or their financial contribution or both in this accelerator. It brings together the private and the public sector, brings together scientists as well as civil society in order to develop a roadmap and to really accelerate progress by addressing the bottlenecks in the development of a vaccine, which normally takes a minimum of 5 years as being the record so far for Ebola. It's more usually like 10 years that it takes to develop a vaccine from concept to when it's available. We don't have the time to wait, obviously, for 10 years or even 5 years. The aim is to get a vaccine out in a year or so, or even less possible. It's not enough to just do the scientific part of developing and testing the vaccine. The manufacturing and scale-up, procurement, supply chains, and getting health systems ready to vaccinate populations is really going to be very important. And all of these have to be done in parallel. And that is why this accelerator is bringing together governments, manufacturers, and all the big agencies around the world, multilateral agencies, Gavi, Global Fund, FIND, the World Bank, WHO, UNICEF, etc., working with the private industry, both the innovator industry as well as developing country vaccine manufacturers associations to do this. I'm aware that there are many vaccine candidates that are being developed in India, some in partnership with other groups and some on their own, and I'm very optimistic that some of these will be successful. I would just like to add that I think global collaboration in this situation would really help and not hinder the development. We need competition, but we also need collaboration. We need the sharing of knowledge, resources, tools, assays, and also the sharing of a pooling of ideas in order to do clinical trials more effectively. We need the regulators to come on board because some of these vaccine candidates are like RNA vaccines and DNA vaccines which have never been used in human beings before and would need to go through an innovative regulatory pathway, and then we need the health system to prepare for the populations that are going to be vaccinated. And we have to identify the most vulnerable first, because there will be tens of millions of doses available initially, and then hundreds of millions, and then millions perhaps in a couple of years. But till then, we should make sure that we are protecting people who are most vulnerable, the frontline health workers and other critical staff, as well as the vulnerable people with comorbidities, elder, etc. So a privatization framework would also need to be developed. So there are many issues. Some of them are scientific and technological, and others are more related to societal, regulatory, legal, and ethical norms. So I think we're all in this journey together, and we can succeed, as I said, with global collaboration, with helping each other out in a spirit of unity and solidarity. And so with those words, I would like to wish you all well on this occasion of the marking of the TVB. And again, thank you to the organizers, particularly to the Minister for this indulgence, giving me a few minutes to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swaminathan. May I now request Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary DFT, to give this address.
Good morning. 2020 has been an exceptional year, an extraordinary year, the year of the virus, unprecedented challenges. And so, in fact, that this is rather fortunate that our Honorable Minister represents both the Ministry of Health as well as the Ministry of Science and Technology. And indeed, because science and technology would be the bedrock, the foundation on which the solutions for the virus, the strategies for the virus, the policies and the regulations would indeed be built based on the data, based on evidence, based on models, based on keen insights, as well as managing the times of virus. So going forward, in terms of science, technology and innovation, one sees clearly three different things on the horizon, three different phases, if you would. The first one, which is managing the virus until one finds a vaccine, one finds a drug, a repurposed drug even. And of course, the hunt for both of these things is on. So while managing the transmission, managing the economy at the same time and opening up. So recovery phase, and then going beyond even the times of virus. I'm sure that the overarching problems of science and technology, the humanity and society, going even in the far future would still remain what they were before virus actually came in. And what are these problems? Sustainable development. These are related to climate. These are related to managing diversity. This is about the rise of intelligent machines. It is about managing our demographic dividend. It is about the rise of antimicrobial resistance and huge health challenges that come with it. So why is that actually important in the time of virus? This is because there is something that science and technology will do for managing the virus, but also the lessons that we learn now are going to remain important for all years to come, and managing therefore going forward in the future even the bigger challenges that are on the horizon. So clearly many things have been happening in science and technology very rapidly and picking up scale. And this has been possible because that we have had now more than 50 years of building up scientific institutions, building up human resources, very deep knowledge in science and technology indeed. Incidentally, this is also, it's a very unique year. Department of Science and Technology enters 50th year of its operation. And indeed, all the infrastructure, the human resources, and the deep knowledge built up over these years is going to be fully tested in terms of the challenges which are brought in head on. Now, what are the lessons that we are learning from it, which would go forward as well, and how science and technology is contributing to it? Of course, in the phase that we are in, testing, tagging, tracing, and tracking. Testing, tagging, tracing, and tracking. 4Ts remain very important, and they are indeed made possible entirely by ICT, by data-driven technologies, data analytics, as well as artificial intelligence. And also going forward, if you look at zoning and looking at the containment and so on, clearly geospatial information systems are very important in terms of supply lines, managing supply lines, in terms of managing information, managing resources for the people. What are the nearest COVID hospitals, for example? What are the nearest facilities available and so on? So geospatial technologies are already playing a big role, and Survey of India, for example, is putting out these digital maps for the services which are required. So in terms of distancing and masking, it's so heartening to see that even a variety of new kind of high-tech masks have evolved in just last 2 months, despite all the constraints. These are very, very interesting ideas that I would not have good time to get into. But while opening up our industry, while opening up our markets, opening up our education, clearly disinfectants and sanitization processes would play a huge role. So these are the systems, for example, which are based on robots, remote controlled, unmanned operations, deep UV light cleaning, and a variety of those things, ionizers and so on, both for hospital use as well as for industry use as well as home use. So there have been many innovations, very compelling innovations that have come forward very, very quickly on this front. And this would be greatly helpful as we go back to schools, we go back to colleges, and we go back to industry and reviving our activities. In that, of course, diagnostics plays a huge role. Again, there have been so many Indian solutions that have been emerging with the speed and scale. So these are new kits for PCR testing machines, but also new approaches which are related to new platforms like LAMP. They are related to antibody-based testing, making it more robust, for example, more sensitive, antigen-based testing, ELISA-based testing, and CRISPR tool-based testing options. So all of that would contribute to increasing the speed of testing by a factor 10, while reducing the cost also by factor 10. So these are the wish list on the table, and I think we are moving in that direction very, very quickly. Now imagine if you were to open the aviation sector, or opening up colleges. Many IIT directors called me and said, well, how do we actually get forward, and how these hostels are going to be managed? What is the standard operating procedures? Clearly, a very rapid, inexpensive testing, diagnostics would play a huge role in that. And so that is happening. There are new biomarkers being investigated, again for diagnostics. Artificial intelligence and modeling were mentioned. Indeed, in fact, now there is going back, like I said, that all the infrastructure and human resources that we have seeded in different areas are all being activated to look at the solutions for COVID-19. And one of these examples is that last year we started on a national mission on cyber physical systems. And this is basically artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, Industry 4.0, and so on. And so a network of artificial intelligence people has been formed and fully operational, looking at half a dozen different problems which relate to artificial intelligence. They vary across, of course, diagnostics, inexpensive rapid diagnostics, as well as components of telemedicine, as well as looking at the crowd behavior, the virus behavior, as well as repurposing of drugs. So all of these are problems which are amenable to machine learning, deep learning, and things like that. Now, of course, going forward, electronic processes and remote processes become most important, and I think that's a very great lesson which is going to survive going forward in the future. So whether we are looking at education now, what shape education is going to take, what shape telemedicine is going to take, all of that would greatly depend on our technology, our science and technology, or implementing things in Industry 4.0. Many of the high-tech manufacturing, for example, does not require high density of people working there in close proximity. So that many of these solutions, which anyway have been emerging, have now been greatly accelerated by the presence of the virus. And so that I'm certain going forward in terms of reactivating economy, all of these processes would come in very handy. Communication clearly was mentioned, and so in the times when one has to manage the virus, common people have to know everything that needs to be done and understand the seriousness and gravity of all of that. It has to be done in a language which is understandable by every single person out there. And so communication also has a technology aspects to it, but at the same time, the communicators and technology have to be working together. Simulations and modeling is happening on a scale. There are 30 different groups in India which are working on it. We are trying to bring them on a common platform, because 30 different models do not inspire a great deal of confidence by an outsider looking at it as a black box. So could we have, for example, a national model, a kind of Manhattan project, if you would, and efforts are on actually to build a super model, if you would, that would tell us answers to questions like, if then, if I make this intervention, what would be the effect of it? And so therefore, proper decision making could happen based on that. Now, I'll just conclude by saying a very compelling lesson that we have learned in the time of virus is that how is it possible that within a month or 2 months, many different good models of ventilators came through, even a lot of innovations of global nature in even antiviral coatings, for example, came through. In diagnostics, great things are happening. All of that happened with the speed and is now ready to translate into scale. How could all of that happen? And that's where our lesson for the future is while opening the economy as well as going forward. It was already mentioned, CII, of course, and DST have been working together. The public-private partnerships are most important. Having a direction to begin with is very important. So our R&D must connect to translation. Our translation must connect to prototyping. Prototyping must connect directly to startups and industry. So as a seamless chain, and in fact, all the new technology missions that we have been launching, for example, cyber physical, quantum, and so on, all of them recognize the fact that the industry must be involved in all of this from the beginning, not later, which means that there is a clear direction, there is a clear projection of need, and we know that if we could satisfy this need with particular parameters, then there is a market for it. So in the absence of that direction, R&D would be rather random and therefore not very effective. And so the reason it could happen very fast in the last 2 months is because of clear and present objectives, clear and present vision, and bringing together all the instruments which are available to make this happen. Of course, the commitment of people, the speed, the accountability, the pull of the market and push of the academia came together. And if this were to sustain for all our future, I have no doubt at all that the deep strengths that we have in science and technology, built over more than 5 decades, will come fully into play. I guarantee everybody here, people listening from industry, people listening from health sector, if we can project need for a technology or a product, I guarantee that this would be met by our scientists in no time at all. We must keep in mind that the future challenges as well as managing different phases. Science and time, we need to make use of right tools to be able to address our challenges in an effective way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ashutosh Sharma. May I now invite Professor A. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, to give his address.
Namaskar, Mantri ji, Dr. Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Dr. Shekhar Pandey, Chandrajit Banerjee, and Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, and everyone else. It is a great pleasure and honor to be here today on Technology Day and to be in this company, in this web conference. We are, of course, going through very unusual times all over the world, and those unusual times have resulted in an extraordinary level of collaboration, sense of purpose, and a task which is to be done amongst all our government departments, our autonomous institutions, various agencies, the private sector, and industry. Our minister is the Minister for Science and Technology, for Earth Sciences, and for Health and Family Welfare, and therefore the responsibility that he has covers a huge range in today's times. What has happened, of course, is very impressive, and you've already heard from Ashutosh about that. You've heard a very valuable health perspective from Soumya. What I would very briefly talk about is about where we need to go from here. Now, if we look at three different areas as examples, what have we done and what can we learn from this going forward is what I'd like to address. These three areas are vaccines, drug development, and diagnosis and testing and medical equipment. In vaccines, India has been generally well known as a global manufacturing power. But today, because of the pressure of COVID-19, Indian industry, Indian academia, and Indian startups have come together to work on vaccines, developing the early stage of the vaccine as never before. There are over 100 vaccines being developed worldwide, and there are at least 30 attempts being made in India. And these attempts in India fall into three categories, where India is participating in global attempts, where India is leading partnership in global attempts, and where Indian attempts have started from our academia and staff. Because of the time taken for developing vaccines, normally is very long, multiple attempts and huge investment and parallel investment in manufacturing is needed for success. And India has risen to the occasion very well here. And no matter what the outcome is, we can be assured that Indian vaccine industry and Indian vaccine developers will have played a very important role. This is a very good outcome. Similarly, in terms of drugs in terms of drug development, there have been broadly three approaches to drug development the world over. One is to try to throw anything at the problem and see what sticks. Given that our learning about the virus is constantly growing, this approach has some value, though the chances of it succeeding are rather modest. The second approach is to look at repurposing existing drugs and see whether they stick. And there, the CSIR, the Department of Biotechnology, and multiple other agencies have worked together to see how repurposing can effectively be done and tested in our context, and those trials are also being done in partnership with the Health Ministry. The third is new drug discovery, and there our industry, CSIR, and other organizations have worked together to both computationally and by other means design drugs which can be potentially of value, and testing them and see how we can go ahead. So this is incredibly valuable. Finally, there are approaches in drug discovery which involve looking at the value of biopharmaceuticals and traditional approaches such as Ayush to see whether they can have antiviral properties or to mitigate the consequences of the virus. So this is again something which has resulted in multiple labs coming. Finally, in diagnostics and testing, there was and in terms of personal equipment and hospital equipment. The supply chain dominance of one country resulted in an early bottleneck in equipment and supplies and reagents. Now, this has been addressed really well. For example, in diagnostics, the Department of Biotechnology has led collaborations with multiple other agencies to synthesize reagents required for testing in a network of laboratories. Testing has expanded hugely by this kind of a network, and new tests have been developed by several of our institutions in the CSIR, the DST, and other agencies. This signifies an extraordinary innovation and intelligence in putting together new approaches. Some of these tests are actually fully innovative. Similarly, for hospital equipment and PPE, many of our traditional manufacturers working in multiple areas have reformatted to serve the new purpose of making ventilators, oxygen, the textile industry in a phenomenal manner. So, this is not just for the immediate requirements. Our Ministry of IT, various government agencies such as NITI Aayog have worked in a public-private partnership model to develop contact tracing applications, which over 90 million people have already downloaded the Arogya Setu app. And in addition to the 3 points which Mr. Vikram Kirloskar mentioned about hygiene, wearing masks, and social distancing, testing, tracking, and tracing are very, very important to crush the disease as we go forward and allows us to be one step ahead of the disease while we wait for a vaccine. So, in summary, we've done really well in breaking a variety of barriers, coming out of our silos and going ahead. Now the challenge to us is to keep this tempo of interaction, collaboration, which has come so naturally during a crisis. We have to keep it going after the crisis and as we exit the lockdown. I'm sure with this example which you have set already, we'll be able to do that very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vijay. May I now invite Dr. V.K. Saraswat, member NITI Aayog, to kindly give his address.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Shri Vardhan ji, Shri Vikram Kirloskar ji, Professor Vijay Rahman, Professor Ashwin Sharma, Dr. Neeraj Sharma, Shri Banerjee, and all the participants in this conference. We congratulate the scientific community for this technology in this crisis time of COVID-19 scenario. Science and technology, all of you have discussed, has played a major role during these days. Some of the major achievements have been through the measures taken by the Science Department, by the Department of CSIR, by ICMR, by DRDO, various IITs, various education institutions, BPT, BIREC, CST, ICMR. All of them have made tremendous contribution in solving the country's problems. Some of them I would like to highlight, like the epidemiological studies and simulation of the spread of coronavirus under the different conditions. We have an ongoing program, national program on the vaccine development, post-multiplication of the corona testing infrastructure which has been achieved, discussed already by many. Development of new methods of testing based on gene concept or rapid test kit based on antibodies. We are also having many programs in which people are trying to find diagnostic methods using the X-ray of the lungs. There was a crisis of ventilators and we came out with flying colors, developing and manufacturing ventilators in the country. And the same is the story for the personal protection equipment. In addition to that, the software platform for accounting the COVID-19 cases and issue for alarming the communities like Arogya Setu have been some of the major achievements. And the scientific community has played a major role in these. But what have we learned from this particular exercise? We have learned few lessons. I would like to highlight those lessons so that we can take corrective actions. We have had issues with respect to delay in setting up test centers, and we had the lack of inventory of the test kits. By and large, our industry was deficient due to the dependence of import from foreign countries, and that played a major impediment. Indian institutions had some ready-made solutions, in various technology domains, but they were at the level of proof of concept or technology readiness level 3 or 4. This required time and cost to take it to a mass production level. This is noted as a serious weakness of our R&D system. The regulatory system to introduce new drugs, vaccines, equipment in the system is not able to re-engineer itself to the accelerated process. To cut down delays, most of the time the similarity principle has not been followed. This needs a revamp and rebook and correction. We need also have to have the private companies coming out with the solutions for specific problems, which are serious problems of getting products accepted by the government agencies. Hence, in our system post-COVID, certain modifications are essential for meeting these situations. These are some of the lessons which we realize. Now, this COVID is not going to stop, as most of you have said. It is a very long-range process. So obviously, there are 8 ways emerging technologies tackling the coronavirus pandemic. I would say when we talk of lockdown economy for the cities, we need to focus on smart surveillance, location-based systems, online civic services, indoor parking, autonomous stores, and prefabricated construction system, and the sickness mapping. These are some of the measures which you have to take as far as the lockdown settings are concerned. When we talk of lockdown of economy for industry, our major effort should be on the real-time supply chain monitoring, fleet management for management and telematics. Autonomous vehicles will have to find place. Augmented reality and virtual reality will also be playing a major role in the years to come to solve these problems. And certainly we have to focus more and more on the digital factory. Lockdown management for individuals, certainly that's a major issue. We have shared sleeping and entertainment have been taken care of. We have to develop rigorous infrastructure for remote working and loneliness management. A lot of people are suffering because of that. The stress and anxiety reduction, online learning, food and grocery delivery, indoor workout platforms, and so on. Remote healthcare is a major requirement. We can't be taking everybody to the hospitals as we are seeing today. There may be overflooding in the days to come. So we need to go for remote monitoring and telehealth and respiratory monitoring, digital stethoscopes, and mental health clinics and wearable sensors. We have a large number of prevention measures which are required in this case, which is related to the disease surveillance, air filtration systems, disinfectors, the spit disposal systems, and antiviral masks. Diagnostic solutions, all of you have discussed, which certainly needs a major attention. Same is the case with hospital care, where hospital robots have to find place because otherwise our health warriors are going to have major issues. 3D printed ventilators and the walls for them, artificial cup device, critical algorithms, production gear, they are required for the hospital care. And public safety during pandemic is a major requirement, and that would be through the drone delivery, the specialized isolation units, mobile supports applications, outbreak visualization and prediction, and many of the controlling systems and so on. They are very, very essential. The companies who are involved in this must respond quickly and decisively to the threat of COVID-19. And they have to create what is called the nerve center with a capability for steering the organization, serving as an information center, managing risk and responses, and aligning all stakeholders. We also need to care for the production of employees by making employees' health and paramount concern and adjusting the production as needed. Similarly, maintaining the financial health of the company will be important. So we have to improve the liquidity by reducing costs and protecting other members of the ecosystem, particularly the supply chain and the small vendors and the MSMEs. Adapting marketing and sales, identifying and mitigating risk of declining sales while meeting critical customer needs. That's a major requirement. And screening and safeguarding the supply chain, that is understanding the supply chain risk and taking action to address the disruption. That is going to be a major problem. Immediate actions which are required for the response to the COVID-19 is we have to plan. We have to plant, we have to source, we have to make, we have to deliver, and we have to go to the consumer. So the cross-functional control towers, as I mentioned to you, the control centers, they need to be set up to detect potential blind spots and ensure quick reaction times. For sourcing, supply support, helping suppliers to find required workforce to ensure the ongoing supply. It was mentioned about migrant workers, whether they will be available or not available, but that is going to be a major issue, and we have to learn to work with reduced manpower. Make and deliver and consume certainly requires the repurposing of production lines or shifting assortment priorities to ensure supply of high demand goods. We have to pivot the freight models, leveraging air freight to mitigate the potential delays and bottlenecks. Customer support for open communication on COVID-19 impacts on extended payment terms that has to be done. Employee protection, we discussed, we have to go for shift ways of working, increase in the shift inventory, react to the regional shutdowns and the demand shift, we should plan for that. Cash and cost management, short-time work to ensure liquidity and prepare for rebound, that is the stock distribution. These are some of the measures which have to be taken. Now, there are certain business imperatives which are emerging, and what are the options ahead we should look at. Recovery of the Indian economy will depend upon the adoption of appropriate measures, policy support to the unconventional strategies. For that, we have to set up a detailed understanding of the sector-wide requirement and the business imperatives thereof. We have to assess the demand-supply situation. We have to also assess the technology skills in India, and particularly existing capacity, which further strengthening and initiative both long-term and short-term, and depth and breadth of the foreign partnerships what we have to ensure the supply chains. We have to also leverage some of the international partnerships in critical areas like agriculture, like leveraging our partnership with Israel in this area, like MSMEs. Probably we have to resort for collaboration and working with Germany, large manufacturing tie-ups with US and Japan under the Startup India. And finally, I would like to mention that the self-reliance will be going to the new mantra in the days to come. We are today discussing technology on a technology day, so R&D cannot be beatable. Major challenges in Indian R&D are well known to all of us. We know that we have an R&D system where expenditure R&D is low. We have suboptimal research infrastructure. We have depth of private R&D investment, and we are missing linkages between the industry and academia. These have been addressed many times. The major underlying challenges which have been highlighted post-COVID are we are highly import-dependent nature of the Indian industries. We have the presence of stringent regulatory mechanisms for introduction of novel drugs, vaccines, and equipment. We have inability of the scientific institutions to deliver solutions as the solutions developed do not go beyond the proof of concept or TRL 3 or 4. Rigorous approval process for products developed by private enterprises, and hence they face serious problems of their product coming in the market in the accelerated manner. Non-availability of firm orders and lack of line of credit from bankers to meet the capital requirement for operations and upgradation of infrastructure. I can mention that during these last 45-50 days, I have personally faced companies coming to me for getting the line of credit from banks to get just the OPEX for doing the accelerated production of ventilators and PPEs and so on. I think we have to look at these issues in a big way. For this, we need to carry out certain reforms in the R&D critical areas of national importance. We have to develop end-to-end technology solutions, call for strong internal linkages between SNC sector and the relevant socio-economic ministries at both the central and the state levels. There is a disconnect here, and we have to build that bridge. Promote R&D in mission mode. We do R&D in a diffuse manner. We have to create R&D like we are doing in the Department of Space or DRDO or Atomic Energy in the potential areas such as alternative fabrics, materials, designs for PPEs, low-cost test kits, therapeutic drugs, vaccines, and medical devices. Increasing number of the full-time research workers in India. By doubling the present strength, rigorous postdoctoral program to the employment guarantee and return of the best-in-class Indian scientists from abroad should be our major initiative. To strengthen the research translation in the R&D ecosystem, I think Professor Arthur Sharma mentioned, by ensuring industry partnership, incentivizing indigenously developed products, and creating a comprehensive national technology portal of indigenous technologies which are ready for commercialization. Promoting India as a global R&D hub. This is an opportunity by encouraging multinational companies to set up R&D centers in India. For that, we have to provide tax benefits for industry to invest in R&D projects of national importance and initiatives to facilitate and support bridging the values of tech. In fact, we have an opportunity today because large number of Chinese companies and companies from China are wanting to approve, and India with their modified FDI policy can certainly make a tremendous difference by attracting foreign companies willing to pull out of China. Set up a seed fund and give grants to startups as effective initiative to convert R&D efforts into products. Initiate a mission program aimed at supporting rapid vaccine development with fast tracking the approval mechanism. In fact, I discussed with Dr. Paul how this mission program should be run so that we have a rapid vaccine development, not only manufacturing alone, but even the development which is India-centric. There are various focus areas in which we have to do R&D, like medical devices, the e-commerce and communication networks, computer servers, multiplexers, ad equipment, and so on. Communication network, basically the 5G, will have to certainly find out favor now. Agriculture, which is going to be a major requirement post-COVID. We have to switch over to genetically edited crops or GM crops. Precision agriculture, low energy cold storage systems. Technical textiles like carbon fiber, 100% polyester coated with foam and water repellent, aramid and nylon 16, these are requirements. Biotechnologies, new vaccines, drug genetic studies, diagnostic kits, energy, where we have to go for lithium-ion batteries, ethanol production, hydrogen economy, and drug manufacturing. We face problems of active pharmaceutical industry. The future is going to have to be part of the pandemic, all people look for. They have to start making very hard choices. What is the role of advanced manufacturing and production technology in shaping new operating and business models post-COVID? What are the operating and business model innovations worth keeping once the crisis is over? They have to start thinking. Will firms quickly return to the business as usual, or will they examine what worked hard during this period of mass experimentation at this scale? Would the resilience achieved today only be made possible through superhuman effort justified by being in crisis and not sustainable in the normal mode of working? Will only a handful of superstar firms and the state-funded oligopolists get stronger and more dominant in the manufacturing landscape? These questions will have to be answered. And for that, there are 7 enabling factors which I am recommending, which are there: reconfiguring manufacturing capability in the industry, repurposing of the manufacturing capacity, digitization of the supply chains, strategic workforce planning, provision of the capital and liquidity, remote infrastructure management, and platformization. These 7 steps have to be taken. There are key imperatives for both business leaders and policymakers, which are ensuring business continuity and protecting employees. There is an immediate action plan in which established cross-functional control towers to coordinate responses to COVID-19 on a global and regional level, increase safety stocks and shift inventory between sites when needed, proactively manage cost and cash to ensure liquidity, create models from sea to air to deal with the potential bottlenecks, offer customer support programs to keep customers up to date and provide remote customer support, prepare for rebound when demand returns as markets will most likely be overwhelmed, quickly react and adopt the new changing sources of demand to meet customer preferences and secure revenue streams. There is an initiative to accelerate, and those initiatives are adopting the overall supply chain setup by carefully managing interdependent levers such as dual sourcing, complexity reduction, and localizing. Doubling down on investments in advanced manufacturing technologies that were attributed an essential role in ensuring a quick reaction to the crisis. Adjusting the operating model to allow for more flexible and decentralized manufacturing organization with a consistent risk management system in place. Redefining the external relationships and capturing new opportunities from cross-industry collaboration modes, and reviewing and challenging the product portfolio to reduce complexity and refocus on key strategic directions. There is a key imperative for global value chains, rapid tailoring of manufacturing and supply system to changing consumer behavior. We have to go for agile manufacturing and supply system setups enabled by advanced technology. Logistics coordination across the value chain and within the global value chain. Adoption of new ways of working and governing to increase manufacturing resilience and shared responsibility and collaboration among companies and authorities to address social and environmental challenges. There are 5 imperatives for Indian manufacturing sector in the new normal. The new normal is going to be there, and what the new normal demands. We have to go for accelerated GST integration, streamline levies, incentivize and monitor compliance, strategize towards long-term structural changes of expanded tax base and removal of artificial state barriers, ensure seamless common markets by integration of tax structure at multiple levels, monitor compliance and take quick reactive measures to alert business fears, improve ease of doing business, simplify, hasten and encourage manufacturing, faster provision of checks and clearances like environment and legal clearances, develop cluster-based ecosystem with higher focus on infrastructure, continue modifications in labor laws to provide balance between business and employee interests, embrace Industry 4.0 on our own terms. In the present situation, we can't take Industry 4.0 as being proposed by the Western country. We have to have the Indian context which offers different advantages and poses unique challenges. Encourage small and medium business through cluster-based Industry 4.0 adoption. Ensure indigenization of Industry 4.0 innovations, drive low-cost solutions. Create supporting infrastructures like smart cities, airports, roads and ports. Continue driving labor reforms, drive core reforms to the labor markets, and drive financial reforms, push forward to the reform agenda, continue driving structural changes, for example, insolvency reforms, provide cash access to the credit, especially with SMEs. There are 10 top skills which will be needed for this kind of a thing to happen. One will be digital literacy, ability to use and design new AI and data analytics in the years to come, creative problem-solving capabilities, a strong entrepreneurial mindset, ability to work physically and psychologically, safely and effectively with new technologies, intercultural and disciplinary, inclusive and diversity-oriented mindset to address new challenges arising from a more diverse manufacturing workforce. Cybersecurity, which will require privacy and data information and mindfulness. Ability to handle increasing complexity of multiple requirements, effective communication skills, and open-mindedness towards constant change. I will be available soon. The self-organizing factor factory architecture and workflows will be provided by Industry 4.0. Next level, teams of autonomous robots and human workers, but with man in the loop as a major requirement for handling of parts and materials, assembly and quality control, operation and maintenance of the production machinery. These will be some of the measures which will be taken post-COVID to ensure that the so-called Industry 4.0 advanced technologies like what we have discussed, cyber-physical systems, smart cities, and quantum computing and high-performance computing, data analytics, all form part of this scenario. But scenario in which the new normal is existence of COVID with safety measures, with the kind of requirements which we have, which will not be same as we have seen in the last 50 years, it is going to be different. And for that, we have to manage in these measures. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saraswat. May I now request the Honorable Minister to inaugurate the digital exhibition at the dedicated multi-feature virtual online CII Hive portal, wherein we have approximately 50 exhibitors displaying some of the best technologies from across the country. Also has a digital library and a digital P2P lab. And we have the video tools. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we inaugurate the exhibition. Thank you, Honorable Minister. You have inspired us. And now I'd like to have the honor of inviting, Dr. Harsh Vardhan, Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Health and Family Welfare and Earth Sciences, Government of India, to deliver the National Technology Day address.
Dr. Swaminathan, our Deputy Director General, World Health Organization. Thank you, Dr. Soumya, for some good words for India. Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, DG CII, Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, President CII. Thanks, both of you, for being with us as always, for helping us in organizing all big activities all across the spectrum. Dr. K. Vijay Raghavan, Dr. V. K. Saraswat, Dr. Ashutosh Sharma. I understand Dr. Shekhar Mande and Dr. Renu Swarup are also there. Dr. Neeraj Sharma, Mr. Navneet Kaushik, and thousands of my dear scientists and professional colleagues who have joined us on this very important day today. I think this is all thanks to COVID-19 that we are all enjoying this very prestigious, very informative Technology Day celebrations, sitting at home or in our offices. And I don't think that ever in the past we could have witnessed participation of thousands of our good scientists in this technology day function in such a cool manner. So this is, I think, the new blessing of COVID-19, and all these good ideas and all these good practices that we have been forced to adopt during COVID times. I understand that in future times, if we continue to practice some of them, COVID will always be remembered as a blessing in disguise for this whole world. But my worry as a health minister is that most of the people who participated in this conference till now, they were neither wearing a mask nor were they mentioning about a mask. They are all preaching about wearing a mask all the time, but they are not themselves wearing a mask. So I have a feeling that if this social distancing, if this wearing of mask, if the basic things like hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette that we have been propagating all through this crisis, if they will become the new normal for the society, this is going to help me a lot, not only in handling COVID, but for many other health issues, and it will certainly help the whole world in improving its health status in future times. Anyway, that was the lighter side of it, but after such exhaustive presentations and speeches, especially Dr. V.K. Saraswat, I think he has given us huge advice and guidance from the Niti Aayog side. I don't think there is much that I should be talking about at this particular moment. But Dr. Ashutosh Sharma has asked me to definitely say something on behalf of the Science and Technology Ministry and our government. So I'll just, in another 5-7 minutes, I'll just put down some thoughts which I have put down together. And again, I would just mention that it gives me immense pleasure to be with all of you, to meet all of you in this virtual manner, in the midst on this August gathering, where we have all come together to celebrate the 22nd National Technology Day, which has been organized by my ministry along with the active support of the Confederation of Indian Industry. The National Technology Day, we know, is observed on the 11th of May to commemorate achievements of innovations and technological excellence in the country. The day has a historic perspective, as it was on this day that India achieved a major technological breakthrough by successfully carrying out nuclear tests at Pokhran. And I would love to place on record my most humble tributes to the memory of two great leaders of India, my very dear Atalji, our former Prime Minister, and our esteemed President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam on this particular day. Further, I remember that the first indigenous aircraft Hansa 3 was test flown at Bangalore on this particular day, and India also had performed successful test firing of the Trishul missile on the same day. Since then, that was 1999, the day is celebrated as the National Technology Day. We did that Pokhran in 1998, and next year we started celebrating the National Technology Day. The celebration of National Technology Day symbolizes India's quest for scientific inquiry, technological creativity and innovations, and the integration of these developments into national socio-economic benefits and global presence. We are interacting today amidst the most trying times globally as the pandemic COVID-19 marches on to destroy our lives and disrupt our economy. Apart from putting the healthcare system of various countries out of gear, the COVID-19 pandemic has also severely impacted the health of the global economy. The technological and other issues involved in the pandemic are both nuanced and complex. However, in the present crisis, technology has emerged as a forefront of the battle against COVID-19. As we all navigate through the unprecedented crisis, India's fight against the COVID-19 is moving ahead with great strength and steadfastness. Government of India has very effectively managed and contained the pandemic so far and done exceedingly well in mitigating the impact. Under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, India is taking positive strides in containing and managing this crisis. The Honorable Prime Minister has made a clarion call to utilize this challenging time not as a national crisis but as an opportunity for economics revival, to promote Make in India initiatives and become self-reliant. In this regard, the Government of India is fully committed to facilitating Indian health and scientific community in the fight against COVID-19 with support from institutions like DST, DBT, CSIR, MOES and the Technology Development Board. When it comes to science and technology, India as a nation has always risen to meet any challenge. As always in the past, we have taken actions with speed and scale at several fronts, which included comprehensive mapping of our entire startup ecosystem to identify and support relevant technology solutions ready for the scale-up, supporting industries and projects from academia and R&D labs working on modeling properties of the virus and its impact and novel solutions, activation of relevant DSTs, autonomous institutions in providing the solutions. The S&T response to epidemics like COVID in our country reflects the collaborative spirit of the entire ecosystem. Indian government, academia and the industry is working to find solutions to combat this pandemic. Not just nationally, even international scientific collaborations have further intensified in this period and are taking place at a pace never seen before. This epidemic has also established that we need to further intensify our cooperation and build a sound bilateral relationship. Countries such as ours need to combine forces to seek sustainable answers to pressing unforeseen crises like COVID. The Government of India has set up a COVID-19 task force for mapping the COVID-19 related technology capabilities in startups, academia, research and development labs and industry. The capacity mapping group consists of representatives from DST, Department of Biotechnology, Indian Council of Medical Research, Ministry of Electronics and Information and Technology, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Atal Innovation Mission, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Startup India and the All India Council for Technical Education. This task force has identified over 500 entities in the areas of diagnostics, drugs, ventilators, protection gear, disinfecting systems, etc. The solutions identified include masks and other protective gear, sanitizers, affordable kits for screening, ventilators and oxygenators, data analytics for tracking, monitoring and controlling the spread of outbreak through artificial intelligence and IoT based solutions. We must acknowledge with great reverence that our scientists, our entrepreneurs, and our institutions have left no stone unturned while dedicating themselves in finding quick and deployable solutions for COVID-19. All the facets of developing new technologies such as scientific development and validations, industry partnerships for technology transfer, and scaling up of manufacturing have been adopted. Within a short period of time, India has been able to mobilize thousands of researchers in the country to work round the clock to develop new testing kits, protective equipment, and respiratory devices, etc. Our government has vigorously activated the Make in India program and involved various R&D institutions of the country in manufacturing the COVID-19 testing kits, masks, alcohol-based sanitizers, personal protective equipments, dress materials for frontline health workers, ventilators, breathing devices for the patients. I am therefore extremely happy that the theme chosen for this year's Technology Day is Restart, Reboot the Economy through Science, Technology and Research Translations. Yes, we indeed need to mitigate the widespread economic impact and prepare for a stronger recovery using self-reliance as the new mantra and looking for new opportunities to galvanize the growth in technological and industrial sector. We are rightly poised for it. A large number of solutions for the current crisis have been provided by the young entrepreneurs. Be it the solutions in diagnostic kits, cost-effective masks with innovations in design, material and production techniques, automatic disinfection robots using full-depth disinfection cycle technology, thermal scanner with high-quality thermal imaging, screening system with high-resolution temperature range for mass-scale screening provision, or employing computing techniques and artificial intelligence. Indian startups are at the heart of the solutions. We are a country that's full of optimism and energy. We have the intent and the young workforce that's required for the ultimate push towards a better tomorrow. Against this backdrop of the daunting challenges faced by the humanity, Technology Day this year assumes all the more importance as the scientists and technology leaders of our country have geared up for the national efforts while championing the best scientific and technological advances to attain technology leadership. Very recently, the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India has entered its 50th year of serving the nation through science and technology, and its Foundation Day was celebrated to acknowledge various science and technology initiatives undertaken by DST over the years. DST's efforts were specially recognized for combating the COVID-19 outbreak by initiating myriad activities in different parts of the country throughout the year. DST and its autonomous institutions have elevated science and technology in India to international levels and reached out to the people across communities. DST, by providing the largest extramural research and developmental support in our country, has been strengthening the national science and technology capacity and capability through a competitive mode through scientists cutting across institutions and disciplines. DST's efforts have helped India attaining third position globally after China and the United States in terms of number of publications in Science Citation Index journals. The national institutions like Technology Development Board are created to spur the entrepreneurial spirit and technological innovations to reach the larger cross section of the society by large scale commercialization. TDB has emerged as front runners to support the innovative technologies to handle the biggest healthcare crisis due to COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Biotechnology and the Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, BIREC, a sister department of DST, have also announced COVID-19 Research Consortium program and have sought proposals from the industry, academia, industry-academia partnerships with a focus on affordable diagnostics, vaccines, novel therapeutics, repurposing of drugs, or any other intervention for control of COVID-19. The Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, under its new Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative, is also seeking proposals from industries for effective containment interventions, assistive devices such as affordable ventilators, innovative diagnostics, rapid, affordable, cutting edge, novel drugs or repurposed drugs, new vaccines or repurposed vaccines, and track and trace technologies. The World Health Organization has pulled in resources and scientists from across the world in its research for a potential vaccine. India is also playing a big role in this at the World Health Organization. In addition, thousands of researchers around the world are offering their expertise, time and help through international platforms such as Outfight COVID-19. The global fight against the pandemic has created a universal collaboration unlike any in the past history. Never before have so many experts in so many countries worked together on a single topic and with such urgency. As the world adopts the new normal owing to this existential crisis, there is a need to rethink strategies and chart out technology roadmaps that would drive resilience and help us emerge stronger. COVID-19 has given a major fillip to the country's resilience and self-reliance and enhanced indigenous capacity in developing critical healthcare needs. Thus, on this day, I would like to congratulate all the technology leaders in our country, from the industry and the academia, who have worked very hard over the years to help India attain the leadership position and more so in these testing times. I would also like to assure that like every crisis, this too shall pass. And like always, we will bounce back and shall emerge stronger. But COVID-19 will leave behind a profound impact on our lives. Post-pandemic, there would be a paradigm shift in our social structure, global and economic cooperation as well. In such a scenario, it is critical how fast we internalize the lessons, look ahead and prepare ourselves for the world beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. To emerge stronger, India needs to strengthen building blocks of the economy as well as that of society. COVID-19 pandemic, though unprecedented in impact, has galvanized the whole nation in not only facing it resolutely and unitedly, but also combating it with all the resources. Each citizen of the country has gone beyond the normal call of duty in this moment of crisis and contributed to this endeavor. Finally, I wish to once again thank and congratulate all the scientists of the country for your human service over the years, and especially during this crisis. I have no words in my vocabulary and in my linguistic abilities to be really able to express my happiness, satisfaction, and sense of pride when I see all of you have risen to the occasion in such a brilliant manner. And every day I hear so many things happening, so many things likely to come out. Yesterday itself, we announced that ICMR has come out, our scientists there have come out with a new ELISA, which has already been transferred to the industry, and very soon we'll be having the privilege of having these tests done, very important tests done with kits which will be available and which will be thoroughly indigenous and will certainly give a big fillip and boost to our Make in India program. And all the similar things are happening on all the fronts. I know, whether it is vaccines or kits or the artificial intelligence driven, many things are happening. And in our call for, proposals, so many young innovators, young startups, they have all come forward. So we really feel proud of these young startups, young innovators, our young scientists, and we know that because of all of you, the younger generations, we have a great future for India, and certainly we will be amongst the top 2-3 scientific nations of the whole world in the coming years under the dynamic leadership of our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. Once again, thank you CII and my Department of Science and Technology for organizing this very important Technology Day celebrations function, and thanks all the dear colleagues who have participated in this inaugural session. I may not be able to participate in the other sessions, but I am sure I will be benefited from the deliberations there. I will keep a track of what happens during the course of the day. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Jai.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much. You have inspired us with your address, and we are indeed privileged to have today on this presentation. I would now like to request Dr. Neeraj Sharma, Secretary Technology Development Board, Government of India, to close the session with his remarks.
Thank you. Namaskar. Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Health and Family Welfare and Sciences, Dr. Vardhan ji, Professor Vijay Raghavan, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Dr. Saraswat, Mr. Kirloskar, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Secretary DST Professor Ashutosh Sharma, our partners from CII, senior dignitaries, academic institutes, and other delegates attending the conference. Honorable Minister, Sir, on behalf of the entire scientific and technological community, I would like to express a heartfelt gratitude to you for your gracious presence today. Also, at the outset, let me say that we are very fortunate that you are leading this nation and engaging it with a lot of commitment to fight the unprecedented health crisis created by COVID-19 pandemic. Sir, you have been a guiding force to us, and in this journey we are creating a very great technological ecosystem which is enabling us in the time of this crisis. Thank you very much, sir, for your encouragement and coming to this particular session. I would also like to thank each and every panelist who have spared their valuable time and attended this inaugural session through digital conference and guiding us in the process. The Ministry of Science and Technology, DST, DBT, DSIR, CSIR have created the enablers and drivers of the innovation ecosystem. Today we have a large pool of startups, entrepreneurs, incubators, and importantly government industry collaboration. All are working in tandem with each other. On this very important technology day, it is extremely heartening to see that global innovators, technology leaders, entrepreneurs, policy makers, industry stalwarts, eminent academicians have come together to share their experience and expertise in trying to help tackle this massive challenge the entire world is facing and India is facing in the present times. The battle may have just started, but I have no doubts that we have strength, ability and competence to come out of this crisis stronger and as a global leader. Therefore, on behalf of Ministry of Science and Technology and the Confederation of Indian Industry CII, I would like to thank each one of you for the wonderful contributions you have given to us and in fighting this COVID-19. I would also like to thank my colleagues and teams in DST. I would like to name Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, my colleague Commander Navneet Kaushik from TDB and the entire team in the TDB who have been very supportive and leading this particular event from the front and organizing this event. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the media. It is you who really play an important role in making and taking this information of these technologies, innovations, etc. to the public at large. Let us work collectively towards achieving this goal, which has been outlined by our Honorable Minister. Thank you once again, all of you, for being here. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. I'd like to thank all the distinguished panelists in the inaugural session for their time and valuable insight. I would request all the attendees today present for the digital conference here today to virtually visit CII 5 anytime today or anytime in the next 30 days to visit innovative technologies in the virtual platform. On the occasion of National Technology Day, we are now opening up applications for some of the prestigious CII awards. The 7th edition of CII Industrial Innovation Award, CII Intellectual Property Award, and CII Corporate Startup Business Connect Platform and
इस टेक्नोलॉजी में तो आपका खर्चा बहुत कम हुआ होगा कुछ नहीं people are there, like, ज़्यादा होंगे मतलब जो हमारे मल्टीपल चैनल